always liked to fiddle with things. You remember the old typewriters? Tuck, 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 tuck. I used to take old typewriters and try to make them work. Then with vehicles, I used to always poking my nose and trying to find out all these things. Up in the country in Blanchished, where we had a truck, my uncle had a truck. He used to bring the stuff from there to here, there, back up and so on. Previous to that, of course, we had to use a ship, go around the coast, the schooners and so on. And this is where we learned about time, because the schooner will come at a certain day at a certain time when the tide is high. So they can put the rowboat out, row into the beach, you put your bag of copra and whatnot. If you miss that, well, maybe 2 days or 3 days afterwards it will come again, so you're in trouble. So time was very important. Apart from that, time was very important to any mining animals. If the cow is in young and has to drop at midnight, well, you better be there to see what's happening and help. So this brought in the element of time, always punctual on time. I'm sorry you're late, sir. Anyway, engineering, I got influenced by the Farrells, old man Farrell, Carlo Street they were at the time, and I used to go there and spend time with it on the radios and so on. It's not heavy engineering, but electrical engineering at the time. And of course, radios then and radios now is quite different. So that was the bias. And then after school, I got into the electricity people who, the city used to buy electricity from the power plant at that days and distribute. And I got involved in there. Mr. Sargent, you know Stephen Sargent, well, I got under him, and we were responsible for the substations over Port of Spain in those days. And I got in the hands of two young gentlemen who were responsible. But they taught me some of the world ways. They would leave me at a substation and they'd go and do something else. And if Sergeant called, Mr. Sergeant called, tell him so and so and so, I would do my thing and so on. And then I started to get annoyed, wasting time. I was still after time. Remember, I'm doing this in anticipation of going away to study. So all of this is important to me. Those guys kayaking, they're doing their own thing and having me there to tell Sergeant, well, they're busy, so and so and so and so and so. So one day, I said to Sarge, Mr. Sergeant, I could do all these substations in half a day, you know. He said, yes. I said, yes. So he gave me the vehicle with Gomez, the driver, and we did it. He says, by golly, let those rascals come. See what we do with them. And so it went on. Then we had a Mr. Ross. Edmundo Ross, his father was a cable jointer. And they say, but you want to go with him? Everybody says, boy, don't go with Ross, you know, because he liked to put the fire in your face. You know, in those days we had to warm up the lead and so on. We had a big coffin in the earth. And this was a job way down in Diego Martin, they say behind God's back. That was Diego Martin at the time, behind God's back. So we had this big thing and I helped him up and so on. Teach me how to put the lead, the cloth, wipe the gland and so on. Next morning, everybody's anxious to find out, how you do with Ross? He ain't born you? No, man, I helped him and he teach me how to wipe the gland. Everybody's surprised. So we were great guns. But you see, I had a problem with time. I grew up with a problem with time. And every time those guys wanted to cover off to do something, I was against them. I said, no. I told Mr. Sergeant, I'm not sitting down anyway wasting time. So I got on something else. Then I got on the night work, on the trolleys, you know, the overhead lines for the tram cars and trolleys and so on. We had all that before your time, young man. If we say I'm an engineer when I did my degrees and came out, that would put me in England. and I had all the assistants in England because we weren't independent at the time. And anything I wanted to do, I would ask, and they would facilitate. The body in England, I forget what they call now, from the English government, who would look after people from the colonies and
the Commonwealth.
Yeah. So in fact, it was on one of those things that I met my wife to be. I didn't know it at the time, but we were called, I was called to say, explain about Trinidad and Tobago. What do I know about Trinidad and Tobago at that time? But different people from different parts of the world came to this meeting and were saying about their particular countries, and I had to give them a little bit. And that is where I met the good lady. She had to give something about Switzerland. For some reason or other, something happened. I don't understand. You know, this is one of those things that happens. And that started the ball rolling. If we go back to the English time, before we formed, it was 3 bodies from England: electrical, mechanical, and civil. They were called the joint group. So we were in the joint group. I was a member of the joint group when I came from England, member of the joint group. And we were then coming up to try and do something for ourselves. In fact, we wrote to the bodies in England and said, look, we want to do this. And they advised, they said quite nicely, we can't tell you officially what to do, but we would suggest that you do. Set up your own thing. And there was an Englishman here who came down as a civil engineer. He was very strong in assisting us. While we were bickering and so on, he would say, gentlemen, look, you need to form your group, get together. You know. He came down working for the British government, civil. At that time it was common. And he helped us to form while we were fighting each other and so on with all kind of little nitty-gritty things. And we got going. And as you know, there are changes taking place all the time. As we, over the years, know that, for instance, this thing that happened recently, when somebody resigned, and we didn't know we have to vote, a special meeting to vote. All of these things, we didn't see that at the time, so that is reasonable. So we changed the rules. So that's how we went. I used to call meetings for the joint group and the local group at the same time, together. But I think as we brought the 3 together, the joint group, 3 together and others with us, I think maybe that was engineered in our minds at the time to call it an
associating together.
Yes.
Associate, right, okay.
But it didn't, I don't think there was much discussion. It just seemed to come naturally. The construction of the power station. When I took over, the old station was to be demolished. The old station that was working for umpteen years was there. We had some small units and so on. And we had to move that to put the new station. Right? And Mr. Friedel, hey, the name's coming back. Mr. Friedel was the contractor who got to demolish the old station. And I remember Fenwick Defoe, my good friend, and said, boy, you will never get it done on time. So, the first I met Mr. Friedel on the site, I'll use the word, I virtually attacked him. I said, Mr. Friedel, look here, my jobs are never late, huh? So you don't know why I'm jumping on him like that. All right, okay, you clearly understand that. Okay, thank you. And I've gone about my business. But I noticed every day that he wasn't there, the men don't do anything. So the next thing I said, Mr. Friedel, look, I want your authority so I could organize your people. You don't have to pay me anything. Oh, fine, no problem. So I organized them. And they work. And I let them know what's what. So they work. And the next thing is, some store in town where he used to get stuff from, he's not paying them. So the guy stopped it. I say, look, Mr. Friedel, you and I will go to the manager of this shop let's talk it over. So I tell the manager, look, whatever I have to pay Mr. Friedel, I'll pay you what he owes you, then I give it. Are we agreed? Yes, okay. Now my head office said, but already you don't have to do that, man. I say, boy, I have to do whatever I have to do to get my job done on time, man. And then I heard Mr. Friedel sell the steel work from there. I said, Mr. Friedel, nothing. I get a couple of lunches or something like that. I said, that's all right. And so it went. And it went to the commissioning, because I had five guys chosen. We decided what we want to do. We decided we're going to run the station. So I said to the expatriate, you in charge of the boiler, you don't start anything on the boiler. This man here is responsible for that on the boiler. This man is for switch here. This man is for turbine, and so on and so on. I went on. I want you to stand there and see them do it. If they're doing anything wrong, you stop them. But I don't want you to do it. You tell them what to do. So we commissioned the station. My head office told me all the time, you're going to get into trouble. So I never got into trouble. I regret that I didn't know all those things when I was young. I may be wrong, because I wasn't involved in the political system at the top when I was there. My eyes were focused on my power station. And I thought that Ken Julian, because I understood that Ken Julian was responsible for the Point Lisas development. So in my mind, he came to mind immediately. But other people may have other ideas, because you, for instance, may have a broader knowledge of who was there at the time and what he did or what he didn't do and so on. But this was in my mind. When I was on the power station construction, Ken wanted to bring somebody on with me, an Englishman. And I said, no, I won't come. Anybody from TNTech could come and work with me. I have no problem. Anybody outside, no.
Right.
Well, a lot of people thought Ken would dig me in. I said, no, I never saw any reaction from Ken to hear that, because he was deputy chairman of the board at the time and he wanted to bring this. I said, no. Bring on anybody from TNTech at whatever level, I have no problem.
Yeah, and you always kept a good relationship even after. Yeah.
With Ken?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I Ken, how are you, how are things?
Right. Good.
No hard feelings.